Well, on the show today we have a very, very special guest, Jan Roose, all the way from Estonia, and he's a world slack champion Wakabi. This is a sport that I'm finding out about today.
Yes, it's again one of those times when we find out something that we don't know much about, something that's not done in Kenya. Just a few weeks ago when we had the drifter, Mr. Ahmad Daham, this is something, again, different, something that Kenyans are not used to. So let's find out what it is all about.
Right. Jan Roose, thank you so much. Welcome to Kenya.
Thank you.
Is this your first time in Africa?
Yes, this is the first time in Africa, first like in Kenya, of course, and Kenya is my 60 country actually. So it's kind of very, very important for me to be in Kenya. And yeah, I'm here super excited to show you a slacklining, something new, which is like not common.
What exactly is slacklining?
Slacklining
what is it?
Slacklining is an act of balance, but in these days it's not just about walking, but also about doing tricks, dynamic tricks, flips, salto. And when we talk about the fear, heights, and also it means slacklining, walking between towers, mountains, and then it's more about physical and mental overcoming, like challenging yourself.
Why did you start doing this particular sport? What made you feel like you'd want to try something different? Because I know Estonia is known for other different sporting disciplines, but why slacklining? What made you start slacklining?
Slacklining is more about like solo playing, so there's no team act. So it's just everything depends on me and the gear I'm using, and depends on my goals. And I started slacklining actually coming from parkour. I used to do parkour before, and slacklining was for me balancing and at the same time doing tricks, which is like was visually way more cooler for me at that moment. And then I was like, whoa, I want to try that. And then I had the chance to try, and then I realized I'm so bad at slacklining. I have no balance, and that's what we all the time feel like we can't balance. But actually, well, we're standing on both feet at the moment.
How do you prepare for it? How do you learn it? How does one pick up the habit? What do you have to do?
Preparing first is like choosing the good spot, place, location for it, and setting it up, because it has specific tension. Depends what I want to do. If I want to walk, it has a little tension. If I want to do a tricks jump, it requires way more tension, like 1 ton, which is big. So it's not that I can jump on every line. Every line is different, and yeah, and depends. The location dictates also what can I do.
What about physically? I mean, that's about the rope, but what about physically? What kind of exercises do you have to do to make sure you are fit? Do you run? Do you go to the gym? What do you have to do?
It's because for balance we don't need more than just legs and arms, and even sometimes I can do with the arms in a pocket, but it's more important mentally that you are willing to try again, like trying one more time, because we all, you know, are bad at new things. I was bad as well, like just doing 2 steps, it was so scary. So the mental part is really important, just willing to try again, because the most important preparation is failing a lot. When you fail, you learn how to become better. You don't become better by just doing good, actually, by doing bad. That's what I like to show, and what I like about slacklining, it takes a lot of willpower and to try again.
Of course, you've said failing is a very critical part of the sport, but how did you learn it? Because you said you were doing park hour before. Did you watch videos? How did you learn it? How did you learn the sport?
When I started slacklining, there were not much tricks, dynamic tricks, flips, and I was one of the first who also was inventing new tricks. And most of the tricks we take from acrobatics, from parkour, and then just trying to implement that on the slackline, using the balance, getting better with the air awareness, flying above the ground, and that's how it started. It starts from small steps, just standing on the line, then doing the second step, walking through the line, and later doing jumps and becoming like acrobatic.
Is it from the outside looking in, it looks dangerous. You sit and you think, oh, that's high up. Do you ever get afraid of doing it? Do you ever look at a building and think, wow, this is high? Or how much role does fear play?
Fear is a super important role, because without fear, it's not safe. when I'm scared, afraid, I'm thinking more about the act. I'm thinking more how to set it up, how to do it. So it's not just I have like a, going nuts and trying hard,
Yes.
I have to do it with critical thinking as well. What could go wrong, what could go better, good, and that helps in preparation as well.
Have you had accidents? Have you had places where something has gone wrong?
Well, how to say gone wrong? Yes, I had some injuries, but I never broke any bone. It's just during practicing, you also learn how to fail, and how to fail in a safe manner. So, for example, I was practicing 9-10 years, first 9-10 years without any mats. It's just, it always, as dangerous are you doing it for yourself. So I can I can make a super dangerous line, like just by doing crazy stuff in the beginning, skipping all the basics. But also I can do like big stuff by just preparing super well and not making it super crazy.
I'm interested in finding out, because it's a sport. What are the rules? For example, you're a 3-time world champion. So what are the rules? For example, if you're going to compete somewhere in whatever country around the world, how are you judged?
Yes, in sports we have like the regular trick lining, as we say, it's like 2 meters above the ground, slackline, and it's bouncy. And the tricks are judged by the categories, different categories, how clean it is, what kind of tricks, diversity, and the style. And also actually performance, how I act with the audience. Am I doing it just for myself, or also I am able to watch to the side and interact with the people? That's also an important part of performing.
Okay, and how are the points awarded?
Yeah, most popular system is by getting a specific amount of points for each trick, and then of course like trying the harder tricks with a bigger amount of points gets you further. But there are at the same time different styles where it's more about the freestyle and creativity, not just by doing the most flips and so on. Because by having the freestyle creativity, the expression of the athlete is way bigger. Then we have more different styles, because on the slackline everyone can invent something new. It doesn't need to be always one same trick. It's so fresh that the new sport, that even on the competitions we see all the time some new tricks. And of course it's hard to judge them, but sometimes judging comes from the audience and they understand that.
So it's almost like gymnastics to an extent, in terms of the more difficult it is, the better the tricks you do, the more the points you get.
Yes, it gets very similar to the gymnastics, where you get big points for the big tricks and also little role for the creativity and style.
Tell us about the rope itself. This doesn't look like a conventional rope. Just tell us about the rope itself.
Yeah, the line itself, it's 5 centimeters wide. It really looks like the seat belt, the same size as a seat belt. And, but 5 centimeters is only like for the tricks. On the heights, we have one higher. It's actually 2.5 centimeters.
Why the difference?
The weight, because for example, if I go to Mount Kenya and then I don't want to carry extra weight. So bigger size of the line means more weight. And also with the wind, it works in a way that more material, more wind drag. So when walking long lines, long slack lines, it's not a straight line. It goes like an S-curve because it moves in the air, and when I'm walking the line, I can move in the air with the whole line. So I can feel how the wind lifts me up or moves to the side.
So when it's smaller, then it's easier. It's easier to deal with the wind and everything else. When it's up, yes. Yes,
when it's smaller, it's easier to deal with the wind and control it, and to actually step as well. It's better for the feet to step on a small line instead of a wide one, because on the wide one I have so much space to step in the wrong way.
You see how different it is, because you would think the wider one is easier.
Yeah.
But then he says the wider one is harder because you got room to maneuver.
Exactly, and also sometimes people think that this way is easier, but actually it's the opposite way. For example, bigger shoes doesn't mean it's easier to hold the balance. Or,
yeah.
And also running on the line also doesn't help a lot.
Okay.
So it's more about like focusing on a single step instead of getting to the finish.
And in some of the tricks that you've done, I think you're one of the first people to do a backflip. How do you achieve that? And just tell us, how did it feel at that particular point?
Yes, I was trying hard for 6 years, double backflip, feet to feet. And it all started from basics, just doing a single, performing in a perfect way the single flip, and then trying the double trampoline, slackline. Every day I was practicing, I was trying like just to become better by maybe, let's say, a millimeter, so a little small. And it was important just to train constantly, learn what I can do better, analyze, and try again. Because I was failing more than a couple thousand times before I landed it. And that was important. Sometimes I feel like, okay, next time I will land it. Like, it's really close. And then actually the next time comes after 500 times. So it takes so long.
So you have to keep going and you have to keep going. Tell me something. I read something about you taking part in movies. Tell me a little bit about that. How different is that? And what does that mean for you?
Slacklining is not about only sport and competing and doing the biggest, best tricks. It's also entertainment, because visually, when I saw first time slacklining, it was like, wow, it's cool. And at the same time, it's being used for performances. I perform for the events, for the movies. I've been in Assassin's Creed, Wonder Woman 1984, and also on the world tour with Madonna as a performer, because it's so like entertaining for the people to watch slacklining, and it's easy to understand.
Okay. So in terms of the sport itself, like why are you in Kenya, first of all? Because I think that's the first question I should have asked you. Why Kenya? Why in Kenya?
Kenya has so much opportunities, and it's so undiscovered in terms of the sport as well. So much locations, and here as an athlete of Red Bull, we have some ideas and really potential worldwide big ideas to create.
So I think it's important for us just to get a feel of the rope. Do you mind just showing us, running us through the rope?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jan, just tell us about the sport. I can see a lot of contraptions here. Tell us what each thing means.
Yeah, so this is the line. This is the most important one. This is 5 centimeters wide and 22 meters long. And the length also is really important, because it means what kind of tricks I can do here. And of course we need a lot of weight here in a shopping mall. It's not that I can set it up in every possible location, but here we made it, and super cool. And the line has a lot of tension actually. It's when you hear it, it's like a guitar, like a string. It has. This is the tension of tricks. If there's no sound, it means I cannot do tricks. So this is super important as well. It's kind of playing a guitar, and before that, like tuning it. So the same way I tune the slackline for my performances.
Now for this, you told me that this is important for weight. Like, how do you calculate? Do you know like this is the amount of weight you'd need for it to have enough tension?
Yes. Usually, like when you have nothing to. Yes. Usually we have slacklining between trees. This is the most common. But in the mall we don't have trees growing, big trees. So we have to use something else. And here we need extra weight for that. And the weight is 3 tons for each side. And we use that with the water. We create the weight, which is like super cool idea.
And the fascinating thing is that I noticed naturally you'd think that you'd start at the end, but you start at the middle. Is that the case, or sometimes it changes?
Yeah, the feeling of walking on the line, on the whole length is not the same. In the middle it moves more, and the most difficult usually for the people. And in the beginning it doesn't move at all. But the most of the tricks, the best place for the tricks is in the middle actually. And in the middle I can feel the real tension of the line. So that's why I prefer to do in the middle.
You start from the middle?
Yeah, I can start from the beginning, walk all the through, and then the bigger tricks I do in the middle.
When it's higher up, is it the same? Do you have to look at the weight the same way? Like now there's one that is between the bill, or that one you're using columns.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry too much about the weight.
Exactly. Sometimes I can use pillars and columns and wrap around them and set it up the line without using the extra weight. And that's really helpful. So less equipment.
What's the longest distance you've ever walked in between 2 pillars, 2 trees? Longest distance?
The longest distance is usually on the heights, because when it's super long, like a couple 100 meters, the line is not straight like this line. It goes down and then goes up. So in the beginning I walk down, and then from the middle I start walking up. And the longest one I have walked is 1 kilometer.
Oh.
It
Yo,
ta-
where was that?
It was a couple of years ago in Russia on a festival, and it was between canyon. It was
1 kilometer.
1 kilometer between canyon, and it takes 1 hour to cross it. So 1 hour holding arms
Okay.
in the air, and the body is super tight. After I crossed the 1 kilometer, released my arms, and I couldn't move them anymore for 5 days. They were so exhausted.
So 1 kilometer, 1 hour,
Yes,
walking all the way.
because I have to fight with the wind.
You have to fight with the wind, you have to stay concentrated. What's the safety measure underneath?
Yeah.
Is there any safety measure?
Yes, there's usually a safety leash rope following me, because you never know what wind can do. On a 1 kilometer line, the line moves 50 meters to the side, and it can do like in a half a second and just flips you over.
Okay.
So it's like walking long lines always with the safety, but the safety doesn't help like in an entertainment park. You don't hang on it, it's just there, but doesn't help with the balance to stand on the line.
In terms of weight, like, do you have to be very keen about your weight? And then I've seen your shoes. Is there any special shoes that you use as well?
Yeah, the shoes for tricks are, I prefer, the best ones are skate shoes, like with a flat rubber sole. But for walking in the heights, barefoot actually, so I can feel exactly how my steps are made on the line.
Okay. What about weight? Do you have to have a standard weight, or?
For the tricks, I prefer to be lighter, because more weight means more pressure on my joints, and also while falling, more pressure on the gravity as well. And so with a bigger weight, I need more tension as well.
Okay.
So here I can kind of save with the tension and with falling.
Okay.
So, and it gives me more movement in the air.
Okay.
How much longer can you do this? For how much longer can you continue doing it? It looks like a young man's sport. How much longer can one go on?
Oh, well, we have different age people doing it.
Yes.
It's a question about what to do on the line. Is it just jumping, walking, in my case, walking heights, overcoming the fear, and doing big tricks? Well, with the big tricks, I don't know. When I started, it was not in my plan to do it for a long time, but I'm still doing it, and I'm the for a super long time. Usually people don't do for so long time. So I have no idea. I hope way more years are coming from the future. But for walking, we have people like 50 years old, 60 years old, just walking on the line. When Madonna was 60 when she was walking on the line.
Okay.
It's like,
Okay. Jan Roose, thank you so much for joining us on the show to just tell us more about Slackline. I think it's a very fascinating sport, Wakabi.
Yes, one I'm sure I can't try, but it's really good.
Yeah.
I think my biggest takeout is the width of the rope.
Yes.
That I thought the bigger it is, the better. He says the thinner it is, the better. That I think is the biggest takeout. Yes, it's the other way around.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.